Hey there friends, how's it going? Welcome back to my practical music theory course. And in this video, I want to talk about the topic of scale degrees. Now we just came off of a video on the major scale where I talked about how the major scale is built and I showed you the notes in each major key and everything, right? But a way to simplify things even further that we can use in practical, guitar playing all the time is to take the major scale, whatever song we're playing is in a certain key, and we can, instead of looking at the notes that are in that major scale, right, we can refer to those notes by the number that they occur in that major scale, right? So for example, if I have a C major scale here, I could refer to those notes by their name, right? C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C. It's great if you can do that, especially if you can do that for every key, if you're aware of the notes in every major key. But instead what we can do, and find to be a bit more consistent with things, and arguably a bit more easy to wrap your head around, is use scale degrees. And what I mean by that is we take those notes and we just refer to them by their number in the major scale, right? So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1. So this diagram on the screen here, it shows the C major in open position, right? The C major scale I just played. And we could sort of even start lower, right? 5, 6, 7, 1, bum, 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 bum. Right? We could walk up the scale, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Just being aware of these numbers is helpful. And when you're looking at fretboard diagrams, I would argue when you're looking at these numbers, it's a lot easier to find your way around just because the numbers are naturally, you understand, like if you see a 1 and a 2 and a 3, that those are the sequential order. I find that that's a bit more just easier to grok and intuitively grasp, as opposed to looking at the letters of the notes and understanding that C goes to D, goes to E, and goes to F and to G. Of course you can do it, but I just find the numbers make it a bit more intuitive. Now here's a handful of ways you might actually use scale degrees, okay? One is if you're constructing chords. So say we're in the key of C. We know these notes in the C major scale. Now, what is a C major chord built on? Do you know what scale degrees it's built on? It's built on the 1, the 3, and the 5. So if we took all the 1s and 3s and 5s in this position over here, and we made sure that we had a 1 as our bass note, which is what you do for chords, right? We would basically get this, the C major chord. It's a 1, a 3, a 5, a 1, and a 3, right? Now, if we knew the notes in the C major scale, we could equate those, right? This is a C and an E and a G and a C and an E, right? You could do that for sure. But say we want to do a C major 7. That's a 1, a 3, and a 5, and a 7, right? 1, 3, 5, 7, 3. That's a C major 7, right? So chords are one thing where looking at a fretboard map and having an awareness of these scale degrees can help you just sort of see these chord shapes, right? Another one is identifying an individual note. Say we're playing Happy Birthday in the key of C, and I ask my musician friend, hey, what note does the vocal melody start on? And they say, oh, it starts on the 5. Well, okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 5. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Right? Just by knowing that 5, I know that's the starting melody note for Happy Birthday. And here's the cool part. If I was to change to a different key, say we go to the key of G instead, and I know that 5 is going to be true there too. If I'm playing Happy Birthday in the key of G, the melody note is going to start on the 5. So I just have to find the 5. 4th string open. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Okay, so that's another place that understanding scale degrees can help. Because again, the notes are going to change from scale to scale. But if we can see these scale degrees, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, happy birthday to you. Okay, that's one simple example. Scales are another aspect. The major scale, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1. That's a major scale. But what if I wanted to play a major pentatonic scale? Well, that is, you take the notes in the major scale, and you only play the 1, the 2, the 3, the 5, and the 6. 1, 2, 3, 5, 6. That's a C major pentatonic scale. And I didn't think about notes at all. I was just thinking about the scale degrees, right? The number of the items in the major scale. So those are a few quick examples of how scale degrees can be helpful. Now, there's a couple things I want to talk about just on this topic really quick. One is this sort of names that we can give to these scale degrees. So you see this table here. On the far left, you see the numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and then back to 1. You could sometimes say this is 8, right? 7 to 8, but really it's just the 1 repeating. Now, the names that are worth knowing, I think, are the ones that are bolded here. The 1 is referred to as our tonic, right? Tonic, think of the word tone, like this is our home base. If we're in the key of C, C is our tonic. If we're in the key of D, the D is our 1. D is our tonic. So whatever key you're in, right, that note, if you're in the key of D, D is your tonic. If you're in the key of C, C is your tonic. That's an important term. It just refers to your home base. The other two that are worth knowing is your dominant and then your subdominant. Your dominant is going to be the 5th note of the scale. Really important note, right? So it's key of C. It's our C to our G. Our G is our dominant in the key of C. Now, if we were to make a chord based on that note, it would be a G chord. So you can also use this term, the dominant can often refer to just the chord based on that same note, the 5th note of the scale. Now, subdominant means below, right? So what's right below dominant? That's the 4, right? So our 4 chord is based on that note. But the tonic, the subdominant, and the dominant, with any of these terms, these are the 3 worth remembering. The others I don't think are that important. You will hear a leading tone quite a bit. That refers to the 7th tone of the scale. It always kind of really wants to go home, like there's tension, and then it resolves by going back up to the tonic, okay? So this is one sort of table I wanted to show you here. This is in the cheat sheet I have available for this lesson. Another one is this, the syllables that you'll hear sometimes assigned to each note. This is not necessarily something you need to memorize at all. I just want to make sure you're aware of it. So solmization is what I've seen this called. I don't know if it's solfege or solfeggi. I don't know how to say it, but there's this idea of, do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do. And this is just another way of referring to scale degrees using syllables. And of course, there's the classic song from The Sound of Music, right? Do, a deer, a female deer, re, a da 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 da, da 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 da. Da, 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 da. Right? When she's singing that song, every syllable she's singing matches that note in the major scale. So I recommend listening to that song with these scale degrees in mind. It's really a helpful way to run these concepts into your brain in a helpful way. Okay? Now there's another couple aspects of scale degrees that are helpful. We can use them to refer to notes that are not in the major scale. Right? I have a lesson, for example, talking about adding grit to your walk-ups and walk-downs, and it talks about using the flat 3rd and the flat 7th as a way just to kind of, it's like tapping into the minor scale, really, minor tonalities, but you can mix it with the major in a way that just adds this like raw grittiness, right? So you can basically use scale degrees even when you're referring to notes that are not in the major scale. It might not seem immediately useful, but this concept of scale degrees does scale to allow you to do that, okay? Now, really quick, I want to talk about intervals. Intervals and scale degrees, in many cases, can sort of overlap and be analogous to each other. So if we look at this table here, right? So we have our scale degrees, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1. Now, I bring this up because when we're referring to individual notes, I think a scale degree is a better use of things, right? If I say, hey, go to the 3, to the 4, to the 5, right? Right? But I wouldn't say go from the major 3rd to the perfect 4th to the perfect 5th. That really wouldn't make sense because that's kind of referring to intervals, right? So scale degree works, and in some cases, the interval name can be sort of intuitively similar, right? Major 2nd, and it goes with the 2. Major 3rd goes with the 3. Perfect 4th, perfect 5th go with the 4 and 5. So that's one place where intervals can be helpful. And generally, like, major chords are based on the 1 and the 3 and the 5. I'm going to talk about in the next lesson or a future lesson how major chords are effectively, from any starting note, a major 3rd plus a perfect 5th. You combine those together, you get a major chord. So that's where major that's where scale degrees and intervals are similar, but there is a world where intervals are totally different than scale degrees. But back to scale degrees, right? As far as referring to individual notes, super, super helpful for all the reasons I mentioned. With melody notes, with scales, hey, singing happy birthday, it starts on the 5. Happy birthday to you, right? So this is going to come up in lots of lessons I made. You'll see it in lessons from other people as well. But whenever you see a fretboard map that has these numbers on the notes on the fretboard, that's referring to the scale degree, right? Okay, so that's a lesson on scale degrees. I just want to call it out because it's a very, very helpful concept to be aware of. But let's move on to the next thing now and look at the chords that are in every major key. We're about to have some fun with that. All right, I'll see you in the next one. Until then, bye-bye.